690 species in genus Tillandsia, air plants. June 29th, Tillandsia, the air plant, defines June 29th. Tillandsia represents independence and creativity. You thrive on your own, finding unique ways to grow and flourish. Like this plant, your resourcefulness and originality are remarkable. Tillandsia, my air plant obsession. I'm Ferb Vu, and I have a confession. I'm obsessed with air plants. Not just any air plants, mind you, but the fascinating genus Tillandsia from the Bromeliaceae family. These quirky, resilient plants have completely captured my imagination, and I'm eager to share my enthusiasm with you. What makes Tillandsia so special? First off, let's clear up a common misconception. While they're called air plants, Tillandsia don't actually live on air alone. They're epiphytes, meaning they grow on other plants, typically trees, for support. But unlike parasites, they don't steal nutrients from their host. Instead, they absorb moisture and nutrients through specialized structures on their leaves called trichomes. These trichomes give many Tillandsia a fuzzy or silvery appearance, adding to their unique beauty. What truly sets Tillandsia apart is their incredible diversity. With over 650 recognized species, they come in a mind-boggling array of shapes, sizes, and colors. Some, like Tillandsia ionantha, are tiny and compact, forming rosettes no bigger than a golf ball. Others, like Tillandsia xerographica, can grow to enormous sizes, their silvery leaves arching gracefully like a sculpture. And then there's the iconic Tillandsia usneoides, better known as Spanish moss, which drapes from trees in ethereal curtains of gray-green. A world of Tillandsia. Exploring the world of Tillandsia is like embarking on a botanical treasure hunt. Each species has its own unique personality and care requirements. Some thrive in humid environments, while others prefer arid conditions. Some produce vibrant blooms, while others are more subdued in their beauty. See full list at monsteraholic.com. Are air plants toxic to cats? Air plants are a fascinating addition to my home, but I always keep them out of reach from my curious cat. While air plants themselves aren't toxic, my experience tells me cats can be pretty mischievous. Better to avoid the risk. I've seen my cat take a playful nibble on just about everything, and those spiky air plant leaves could be a choking hazard or, at the very least, irritate her digestive system. It's a relief knowing a bite won't poison her, but a little caution definitely goes a long way. How long to soak air plants? Soaking my air plants feels like a little self-care ritual for both me and them. I find that a good 30-minute soak once a week keeps them happy and hydrated. In the past, I've tried shorter soaks, but those didn't seem to do the trick. The leaves still felt a bit dry and stiff afterward. This longer soak really plumps them up, and I like to think of it as their weekly spa day. Of course, I always make sure they dry completely afterward to avoid any rot. Do air plants need light? Absolutely. My air plants might be low maintenance, but skipping out on light is a surefire way to end up with unhappy plants. I've learned this lesson the hard way. Once I stuck them in a dim corner, and they quickly became pale and droopy. Now, I make sure they get plenty of bright, indirect sunlight. They hang near a window that gets beautiful morning light, filtered by a sheer curtain. They've been thriving there, with a healthy green color and even the occasional bloom. How long do air plants live? It's a bit bittersweet to think about, but air plants don't live forever. I've had a few for a couple of years, and while their lifespan varies, I expect they might be around for another couple before they reach the end of their natural cycle. The exciting thing is that they usually produce pups, little baby air plants that sprout from the base. It's always heartwarming to discover these little surprises. In a way, even though the original plant might not last forever, there's always a little piece of it that continues on. Where can I buy air plants? Finding air plants has been a bit of an adventure for me. I've bought a few at local nurseries and garden centers. Sometimes they have a wider selection, but other times there's only a small display tucked away in a corner. Lately, I've had great luck with online shops specializing in air plants. It's so fun to browse the unique varieties from the comfort of my couch. Plus, some even offer cool DIY air plant holders and kits. My last order even came with a little bag of fertilizer, which was a thoughtful touch. Are orchids air plants? I used to think orchids were a type of air plant since they sometimes seem to magically hang in midair with wild, exposed roots. While both orchids and air plants are fascinating because of their unique ways of growing, they're not the same. Orchids might cling to trees and branches, but they still draw some nutrients from the material they're attached to. Air plants, on the other hand, get everything they need from the air and a little help from me with regular watering and fertilizing. Do air plants need to be attached to something? Not necessarily. Air plants are surprisingly versatile, which is part of what makes them so fun. In the past, I've glued mine to pieces of driftwood or nestled them into seashells for a beachy vibe. However, lately, I've simply been placing them in decorative bowls or hanging them in little glass terrariums. They don't seem to mind being unattached, and honestly, it makes them easier to care for since I can easily submerge them in water for their weekly soaks. How to hang air plants. Hanging air plants instantly adds a touch of whimsy to any space. I have a few different methods that I like depending on the plant and the vibe I'm going for. Sometimes, I simply cradle a smaller air plant in natural macrame hangers for a bohemian look. For a more modern feel, I love using sleek copper wire. I gently wrap it around the base of the air plant, leaving a loop at the top for hanging. Another fun option is to suspend air plants inside clear glass globes, creating mini floating worlds. These are perfect for adding a touch of greenery to a window. How to revive an air plant. Sometimes, even with the best care, my air plants get a little crispy and look like they could use a boost. My favorite way to revive them is to give them a luxurious overnight soak. I fill a large bowl with room temperature water and completely submerge the air plant. It's amazing how much they plump up again. Afterward, I make sure to gently shake off any excess water and let them air dry completely before putting them back in their spot. It's like a little spa day, and they always emerge looking refreshed and revitalized. Why is my air plant turning brown? Oh no, brown spots on an air plant aren't the best. There are a couple of things it could be based on my experience. It might be getting a little too much sun. Remember, those spiky leaves can sunburn easily. If the brown spots are mainly on the tips, it could also be a sign it needs a bit more water. I usually try a soak for a longer time than usual, maybe closer to an hour, and see if that plumps up those thirsty leaves. If the brown spots are squishy or mushy though, that might mean it's overwatered. In that case, I hold off on watering for a bit and make sure it dries out completely before giving it another soak. Are air plants succulents? It's funny. I used to assume air plants must be a type of succulent because they seem so low maintenance and hardy. However, while both air plants and succulents have adapted to survive in drier conditions, they're actually quite different. Succulents store water in their fleshy leaves, whereas air plants are special because they absorb moisture and nutrients through tiny scales on their leaves. I find it fascinating how plants develop such unique ways to thrive. How fast do air plants grow? Let's just say air plants aren't known for their speedy growth. They definitely take a more leisurely approach to life. I've found that even with the best care, it takes months to see noticeable changes and a few years for them to really reach their full size. However, I've come to appreciate their slow and steady pace. It's a nice reminder to enjoy the process and not rush things. Plus, their blooms are always a delightful surprise, a worthy reward for my patience. How to take care of air plant Tillandsia. Caring for my Tillandsia air plants has become a relaxing part of my routine. First and foremost, I give them a good soak about once a week, ensuring they get fully submerged in room temperature water. Finding a bright spot with indirect light is crucial. They enjoy the sunshine but get a bit cranky with direct rays. Between soaks, a light misting helps keep them happy, especially during drier weather. The best part? They're pretty forgiving if I forget to water them on time, a testament to their resilient nature. Are air plants toxic to dogs? Thankfully, air plants are considered non-toxic to dogs. This was a big relief to me as my dog is pretty curious and loves investigating new things around the house. However, I still try to keep my air plants out of his reach. Those pointy leaves could potentially irritate his mouth or become a choking hazard if he decided to take a playful nibble. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Do air plants bloom? Yes, air plants absolutely bloom, and their blooms are often spectacular. They come in a dazzling array of colors, from vibrant pinks and purples to delicate whites and yellows. Sometimes the blooms emerge from a colorful spike, while others have tiny, intricate flowers nestled amongst their leaves. Sadly, air plants only bloom once in their life cycle, but I find the blooms make the wait even more special. It's like a grand celebration of the air plant's life. How to fertilize air plants. Fertilizing my air plants always feels like giving them a little energy boost. I prefer a liquid fertilizer specifically formulated for bromeliads or air plants since they're designed for the type of nutrients these plants crave. During the warmer growing season, I like to add a very diluted amount of fertilizer to their soaking water about once a month. It seems to make a difference. I've noticed healthier growth and even more vibrant blooms. Just remember, less is more when it comes to fertilizer for air plants. Too much can actually burn their delicate leaves. Do air plants have roots? Yes, air plants do have roots, though they work a bit differently than the roots of other plants. Instead of getting nutrients from the soil, air plant roots primarily serve as anchors to cling onto trees, rocks, or other surfaces. Sometimes, I can see a few thin roots peeking out from the base of my air plants. While they're not vital for the plant's survival indoors, I still find it fascinating to see how they've adapted to living without soil. Are air potato plants edible? It's important to be cautious with air potatoes. There are a few key things to know. Some varieties are edible. Certain types of air potato, Dioscorea bulbifera, are edible and have been used as a food source in various parts of the world. Toxic lookalikes. There are other Dioscorea species that are poisonous, and it can be tricky to tell them apart. Proper preparation is key. Even edible air potatoes typically require careful preparation, e.g., roasting, boiling, leaching, to remove bitter compounds and potential toxins. Bottom line, unless you're absolutely certain of the variety and know how to prepare it safely, it's best to avoid eating air potatoes. Do air plants like humidity? Yes, absolutely. Air plants thrive in humid environments. It reminds them of their native tropical and subtropical habitats. My air plants seem to perk up the most after a good misting, especially on dry, hot days. I sometimes even place them in the bathroom after a shower to give them a boost of humidity. They seem to love it. While they can tolerate some dryness, they'll really show their appreciation for a more humid environment with healthier leaves and even surprise blooms. Are air plants bromeliads? Yes, air plants are a type of bromeliad. Bromeliads are a whole family of amazing plants with a lot of diversity, and air plants, those from the genus Tillandsia, are a fascinating member of that family. Just like their bromeliad relatives, air plants have special adaptations for absorbing moisture and nutrients from the air. It's pretty cool to think of them as the free-spirited adventurers of the bromeliad world.